Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool to find the right size for your digging project. Visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. The WisconsinVegetableGardener.com is your destination for all things gardening. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, 1600 garden videos, radio shows, podcasts, and in-studio videos, plus our in-garden videos. We're building raised beds. You can check that out. Just search raised beds there as well. If you've got a question, you can submit it via email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. You can certainly send us a phone call at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-SHOW anytime, and we will get your question answered. Holly, what do we got for the question?
What is the material or filler that is used in NPK fertilizer, so as opposed to just the NPK component?
Right, the minerals. Basically, it's sand and granular limestone are the most popular fillers because they are inexpensive and they make distributing the fertilizer easier without adding more cost to the packaging. So, yeah, it's okay to go ahead and use any type of granular fertilizer. That's what the other additional materials are. Some add micro and macronutrients as well.
So Kathleen from British Columbia says, I work at a roaster, and I'm planning to grow in the burlap sacks this year, as you show in one of your videos. I'm wondering if you had any trouble with pests eating the bags. I'm also curious if the bags held up for the whole season. Fantastic video, super inspiring. Well, we did not have any issues with the pests for two main reasons. One, we kept the soil moist, so no mice or anything, rats. And two, we kept the grass cut around the bags, so less chance of bugs building or having a home there. And yeah, they did last throughout the season. By the time the season was over, the bottom of the bags was biodegraded, but we doubled up on the bags as well just to offer a little bit more support.
Because some of them are not woven very tightly.
Yeah, some of them are kind of porous. So yeah, that's what we did. And it was really fun, and I thought it made a cute little garden. We put our garden gnome back there, and it was fun.
Okay, Holly, here's a question for you. What is the difference between bone meal and blood meal? Thank you.
Blood meal is dried and powdered animal blood, so it increases soil nitrogen levels. Bone meal is ground animal bones and increases the calcium and the phosphorus. This is a byproduct of the butchering industry.
If you're a vegan or you feel that those are ingredients in which you do not want to include into your garden, there are other means in which to achieve those mineral supplements. So keep that in mind. Okay, Holly, next question here. I have a problem figuring out how much water I should water my newly germinated baby lettuce. Any input?
So, yeah, you want to keep the soil safe. It's safe to keep the soil damp like a sponge. If you poke your finger in the soil and it feels damp, you are good. If it has not come up, you can cover the soil with a sheet of paper towel to hold the moisture, and we had to do that with our lettuce that we're growing in the window.
Yeah.
So another question is, do blackberries need acidic soil?
No, they do not. Now, you can grow blackberries in a very large container, like a half of a whiskey barrel, that type of situation, because if you do not have an area in which you can allow them to grow naturally, they will be kind of invasive. They'll take over an area. So a very large container can produce a very bountiful harvest. The other side of the coin is, if you do want to grow blueberries, and not asked in this question, but I want to reference them, they do require a low acidity of 4 to 5 in that range.
And it has to be something that's maintained.
It just can't be. It's good now, because if you just don't maintain it, or you just put it in regular garden soil, that plant will die. So unless you have naturally acidic soil, or you're able to control the acidity of that soil in the ground or in a container, raspberries and blackberries are the best option when you come to a berry ideal there.
Next question. I listened to you. This is Jane. She said, I listened to you at the Wisconsin Garden Expo Madison. I just downloaded your podcast. You talk about mulching your raised beds. What do you use? Do you use straw? Where should I use straw? Where can I get it from? How do I know that it's not full of weeds? Thanks a bunch.
Well, we use a variety of different materials. We use straw, yes, and the majority of straw, in which you're going to get from your local independent garden center or farm store, will most likely not have weed seeds or a large quantity of them, simply because the straw is the byproducts of oats, wheat, other barley, and there's not many weeds in those areas at the time of harvest and baling of the material. If you're going to your garden center, and you can ask them, have you sowed a lot of the straw, and has there been any complaints about having a lot of seeds in that straw? Additionally, we've used shredded leaves, and we use shredded leaves. We have a mound of those in the garden, and chemical-free and seed-free grass clippings are also used on our raised beds and will be used to retain moisture.
What fertilizer would you add Swiss chard once it starts growing big? Lisa has asked.
I would use the chicken soup for the soil would be a good one from Dr. Jim's, DRJIMZ. It's a 1 gallon concentrate. It makes up to 128 gallons, and it's very good to nutriently fill the soil, condition the soil. So that's something that I would recommend using, not only on the Swiss chard, but on all of your vegetation. Bridget wants to know.
No, she has a comment.
Oh, she has a comment. Okay.
In regards to when we were talking about growing okra, that was this season 2, or segment 2 of the season, yeah. She said, fried okra is so freaking good. Okay.
Well, again, Holly is not a fan of okra at all. So what's the next question, Holly?
I stuck some of my store-bought garlic that grew out of hand in my raised bed a couple weeks ago, figuring what's the worst that could happen. Same with some onions that were growing in the back of the fridge. We'll see if they produce anything by this fall. Would you have an experience with either of these scenarios? Yes, the store-bought garlic would grow. You may get small bulbs as it being store-bought, generic variety, and it doesn't have those cold hours. Garlic does need some cold hours. So
that's why we grow it in the fall and harvest it in the spring for that winter cold hours situation.
Yeah, so it's going to be, I don't know, probably about, 80% smaller?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be small.
You're going to get something. It's better than just letting it sit and rot in the kitchen.
With the onions, you will get greens and seeds. Now, onions fall into the 3-day grouping. So if you live in the north, you should be planting a long day variety. If you live in the south, you want to plant a short day. If you live in the middle of the United States, you grow a midday. So if you're in the north and you got some southern onions, you're probably not going to get a lot of growth anyway from those onions that were in the back of your fridge. But you can definitely, if we grow them for the greens, you'll have some nice onion greens.
Know the variety. You're just going to get greens. I don't want to say you're wasting your time, because you're going to get something out of it. But be aware of what the end result will be, so you're not disappointed. Nick writes in and asks, can you recommend a yellow whole grain cornmeal for using to control early blight around tomatoes? I've almost completely stopped growing tomatoes because the early blight, and I've tried watering them early, trimming the lower leaves. They've grown 8 foot tall, but they produce very little fruit, like 3 to 5 pounds per plant. Thank you.
Okay, so for the whole grain cornmeal, you want to use yellow whole grain. We don't really have a brand, but all you do is you go to your cornmeal baking section, whatever. You're going to see some whole grain yellow cornmeal. It's going to say it on the package. You might have to read a little bit, look at the ingredients, whatever.
Not the white. It's got to be yellow.
Right, and it has to be whole grain. So you might see like the super processed stuff. This is going to be the whole grain. If the brand is something mill, you're probably good.
It's got the reason why it's got to be yellow is because that yellow contains a beneficial bacteria called trichoderma, which fights the early blight in your soil. That's in everybody's soil. It doesn't matter. And I would almost say, based on his description, that he's got a abundance of nitrogen. If he's growing these massive plants and producing very little fruit, let's not worry about the early blight right now. Let's think about what we've got nutrient-wise in the soil.
Definitely, you would want to get a soil test. That's going to be the best answer for you. And there's many different options for that, and they're not too expensive, and I would definitely invest in that. Absolutely.
So you know what you're starting with instead of going, well, I think. Thinking isn't knowing when it comes to all the time and effort that you put into a garden.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.